Today is Wednesday, January 27th, and aside from what's been going on with AMC and GameStop, you're all aware of what's going on there. The market decided that they were going to treat what happened to those short sellers with a little bit of revenge. First of all, those short sellers had to buy back their GameStop and their AMC. And in order to do that, they had to raise the money to do it. And they did it by selling stocks that they had made a profit on. So the result is that we saw a lot of good stocks dropping today. And this is what happened to our McClellan oscillator. Dropped well below the oversold line. Not as low as we've seen, and certainly nothing like what we saw happening in the COVID downslide. I don't think we're heading for something like that, but it's nice to see us going into the oversold line after this period of time where we've really just chattered around and done nothing. Tomorrow we call for a bit of an upside, but it doesn't mean that we can't fall down again like we have in some of these previous instances. But typically when we go this low, we do bounce back and we do move back to the median line. You can see that always happens, and in fairly short order. So let's expect that to happen again. But let's look at the charts that we always look at, and let's see if we can't find any reason to be further optimistic. Well, for one thing, the S&P 500. In this room, we follow moving averages. We follow the Ichimoku cloud system, and we see that the Chiku span has support where? Let's bring this green line, which was our previous high that got bumped into for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and let's bring it down to where the Chiku span will find support tomorrow. Where? Exactly where it found support today, because that candle 26 days back is right beside the candle that gave it support today. We could go a little bit lower the following day and the following day and the following day, but if the candles act as support, which they often do, like in here, oops, sorry, that wasn't supposed to move. We just find that the Chiku span gets support on the candles. This is one of the lessons that you can find on the website. I won't go into it too much here. Where we also look for support sometime in the day is the price going down and touching the 50. So there's two areas that we're going to look at tomorrow. We're going to look at a potential drop down to 37.11 at some time during the day or the next few days. But we're going to look at a close that should be above 37.24. So let's highlight that, and let's remember to come back and talk about that in the close tomorrow. Apple had the best earnings on record, over $100 billion quarter. Their gross margins were out the roof. Their iPhone 12 sales were out the roof. Just about everything blew away what they've ever done before, except the Macs, which had a reasonably good quarter, and the stock was not rewarded. The stock is down $5.76, down to $134. Now, I did not sell my short puts. I really expected the stock to move up, and I still expect it to move up tomorrow or the day after. But I added additional short puts, and I added them to the tune of the June 140 short puts, and I sold 4 of those for $14 each, making my break even right around $126. Do I think that the stock is going to go down to 126? Well, I don't. If it does, it's going to get to the 78.6 and below the 50, and I just think the 50 is going to act as support. Now let's move these Fibonacci's a little bit, and let's move them over to the left. And when we've seen us lose the 50 before, what did we do? We got support on these Fibonacci lines. When we lost the 50 back here, we didn't quite get to this 50%, but now let's move this Fibonacci line over to the left, and we pretty much had buyers sitting just above this particular Fibonacci. Same back here when we lost the 50, it was the Fibonacci's that saved us. So we can expect that to happen again. If we lose the 50, we've got support on the 124.35. Any pullback in Apple is a reason to add more. I'm not going to add more short puts. I mean, at the tune of 6 short puts, I'm pretty much tapped out. But 7 short puts, but 3 of them expire in 23 days. And I don't have to hold on to them that long. Once they get back to 140, 142, I'll have gotten enough profit out of those that I can keep the profit in those and just ride out my 4 June puts and then play around with other short puts between now and that exposure. Square continues to suffer, and if we bring in the Chiku span and the Ichimoku, now we're really in trouble. This is a stock that's really in trouble. Get rid of that tool. This is a stock here that's really in trouble, and now the Chiku span is heading down to the 50. The price could be headed down to 187.24. This stock is in a world of pain. Let's put in the whole Chiku span. We're in the cloud now. So we would look for support right around 194.02 unless it goes all the way back down to this Fibonacci here. Now, that green line, which is the bottom of the cloud here, is also where the Chiku span is going to get support on the 50. Remember that we say that there are no such thing as coincidences, and we have a coincidence here. We would have the Chiku span coming down and touching the 50 at the same time as price comes down and touches the bottom of the cloud. So I would say that that would be a reason for some pretty serious support. NIO down, probably going back to test this. Let's just get rid of this here. What's going on here? Sorry. I changed something so that now I can do multiple arrows without having to go back and do arrow, click, arrow, click, arrow, click. Anyways, we don't really see any potential support for NIO now until it gets down to this gap area here, right down to 55.90. So there could still be some pain in for NIO. This is why having short calls is always such a good thing. Cyber had a big pullback. We're not trading Cyber. I talked about the reasons why yesterday. Now, Plug, today I actually did step into Plug because it had broken out of this pennant, and I bought right up here. I bought at 66.65 and 66.609, which is just where these 2 dashed lines are. And then it continued to pull back. I like Plug. Yesterday I was disappointed that I wasn't in it when it jumped this 12%, but today it came back and gave us another opportunity to buy because it dropped 14%. Watch this stock. This is one that we can keep accumulating, in my opinion, and I don't have any short calls against it, which I normally would, right? Rocket. This is Andy's play. Andy got into Rocket because he said that he looked at it at its IPO where it was $20, and then it went rocketed up, and then when it came back to the 20, he thought that it was a good buy. It wasn't anything technical that he saw. He was maybe paying attention to this wedge, but it just wasn't breaking out. But he was holding on. He's got a killer trade there. That's a very good one. He has a good thesis. From a technicals point of view, let's look at our Ichimoku. And what does it tell us? it tells us that the Chiku span got support on this candle, now is turning back up. It's in a cloud, but the price isn't in the cloud. So the Chiku span could be telling us that this stock is going higher. If you want to buy a rocket, this would be a good time to buy it anywhere over its opening yesterday. So create an alert. A good place to buy rocket would be 23.72. Today it closed at $23 even. Get rid of these previous reference lines. Banks took a bit of a hit today. JP Morgan down almost 3%. US Bank down 5%. On our other news stocks, Boeing, sad. Support on the cloud. Chiku span, if we draw our green line here, right at the low point of today, where do we see, green line right there, where do we see where we got support just above the 50? In 2 days, that point will be the Chiku span on the 50. Pretty important point. Sono, nice little pullback. DDD we haven't looked at. Look at that, my God. Just took off. Anne-Marie Trades said this was a stock that she wanted to get into. I'm sure she did. She doesn't make mistakes very often. And that's just tremendous. VERU, is it breaking out of this flag? Not really yet. We just want to draw this down now. It's broken out of the flag. Is this a time to buy it? I would say if it breaks the 78.6, I'm going to put an alert there, and that would be a stock that I would buy above 950 tomorrow. FIS was one that Zach talked to us about. It had an underperforming day today, dropped and was below the relative strength of the market. CVS dropping also. Dollar General dropping, getting support on the 200 moving average. United Rentals getting support on the 50, but now has filled that gap. But what has it done is just created another gap. Now a gap to be filled on the upside. Plug we talked about, and then GameStop in the after hours, I'm told that it's starting to tail off. It doesn't really show it there, but it did start to tail off in the after hours. It moved up again. You know, I really don't want to spend any time talking about the Reddit stocks and what do they call it, Wall Street Bet chat group. That is just playing with fire, and you really have to know what you're doing. This is being driven by Robinhood traders who are able to get margin when they have very little capital to invest. It's sad, really. So let's stay away from those stocks. Let's stay away from any kind of speculative trading like that. Let's look for a little bounce tomorrow. It doesn't mean that the pain is over, but this is a long-term healthy market. This is a market that's going to keep going up. We've got the right fiscal policies in place now. We've got Janet Yellen in place. We've got the Fed that made a commitment today to keep rates low and do whatever is necessary to support the economy. We've got money going into COVID. We've got money going into families who need it, who are going to go out and pay off some of their bills. And we're going to get back to entertaining again, hopefully by the fall.